Okay.
Hello, welcome to Congress, day 2. Should be up now. I was swearing a lot, so they had kept the mic down for a bit longer than I meant to. Yep. Sweet. All right. So, do you have the agenda there?
Trying to count how long the delay is. It's got to be at least like about 12 seconds. Oh, is that what you just said? Agenda. Yep.
So I have to accept standing orders.
Do we have to read them again?
It's got it listed as on the agenda.
Yeah, no, but do we have to read them, or can we just say those ones from yesterday?
You can just say those ones from yesterday, I suppose. I don't want to read them all again. God, that's painful.
We just have to ask if anybody wants to change them.
Yep.
Yep. I'll be down.
Okay, so this morning we're going to deal with the standing. First, we're going to accept the standing orders that were the same as presented yesterday. If anyone wants a link, post it in IRC, I guess. It should. There's a procedural motion.
Thank you, Fletcher.
Thanks, Fletcher.
We don't need to procedurally motion that anyway, but we need to motion to accept the standing orders for the meeting first before you can raise procedural motions.
All right, motion to accept standing orders as voted on yesterday. All those in favour, raise your green cards. Against, raise your red. Abstentions, it's passed. Although there's not heaps of people here yet, so it's all good. And we'll move.
Wait for the online vote.
Yep.
It's Jesse. Yep. Do you want to come up and grab some voting cards? Verify that you're a member. No. We know who you are.
Oh, am I still on?
Right, that's passed. Okay, so first up this morning we have nominations for various National Council positions. And first up, I guess we'll start at the top with President. Luke Housco's here, so I guess he should go first. And Emily, if you want to have a thing to paste into chat, ready to go, that'd be really good. All right, hand it over.
Hello, everybody. I'm Luke, known as E-Daddy on the forums and elsewhere, standing for president. I'm probably one of, if not the most scrutinised candidate in the history of the party, I would say. I think that's a fair call. A bit controversial. Interested primarily to move the party forward. My key reasons for running is that I think that the Pirate Party occupies a very important space in Australian politics, and that we represent an under or unrepresented section of Australia, and that we're relevant to almost all Australians. So I think we have a big place to play, and I don't think that we're moving quickly enough and in the right way to achieve that potential. So I think that the party needs somebody with some of the attributes that I bring to the table to help it progress in that direction. So that's the reason why I'm running. Now the pitch for it is that I want us to really think about, to re-envisage or re-vision what the Pirate Party could be, as opposed to how we see it right now. You will have a perspective on what the Pirate Party is, what it's capable of, and where it's going. And I would like you to step back for a second and rethink about that, and think of how much is that's just shaped by the current types of thinking that we have and the current perceptions of limitations that we have. And instead, think about what it would take to become something much more. And then, as you go through that process of thinking about that, you'll come to the realisation that to become the much more is going to need a lot of hard work from some serious people, and many serious people. And it's not going to be individuals. So we're going to need to step beyond personal politics. We're going to need to step beyond individuals as contributors to the party. And we're going to need to re-look at how the party sees itself and how it works, to be able to use this much bigger, broader, and higher velocity amount of input and contribution from many, many members. And it's bringing that I see as the number one priority from the party. And second from that, it's then about how we go about engaging with the outside world once we're on the process of changing how we see ourselves and how we operate. And again, I think that I have a lot to bring to the table there. I think most people are pretty much across where I sit on a lot of issues. I don't really want to dig into them in detail right now, but I'm very happy to take questions and answers, and I've been running a sort of an AMA, sort of ask me questions for a bit over a week now on the forums. So I think that's been, and I've responded to every single question and every single query, even the not so serious ones. And I'll continue to do that. So if you do have more questions, please throw them on there. The things that I cherish and love more than anything is transparency and honesty. And I've given you complete sort of, here's all my links to my social media, here's who I am. I say some really, varied things on the internet. It's all there for you to see, and you can ask and talk, and that's what it's all about. So thanks again. I do take this really seriously. The party needs new direction, and it needs to increase the speed in which it's getting there. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Emily, yes. I suppose you can post it into IRC, or if you've got a link or something, send it away.
Emily is happy with what she's written in her nomination, so it might be worth reading that out.
Yep. Okay. So, Emily Stevens, why do you think you're qualified for the position for which you've declared your candidacy? As a councillor, I've worked alongside the incumbent president for the past 12 months and have insight into how the National Council operates. I have a track record of integrity and honesty, and I make a point of being approachable. I'm always keen to listen to my team, whether it be brainstorming or complaints, and I act to remedy their concerns.
So just pause for a minute. Captain Peter says that the stream's down.
Okay. Looks like it's up here.
Yeah, it's working over here.
Yeah, I'm just checking my phone. Just maybe gaps in the relevant.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fine.
it's all good. All right. Technical problems.
Yeah.
There is indication here that it's not as good.
I'll also just post into IRC the link to her statement.
They're saying it's done.
Yeah.
Still struggling a little bit. Connection? Yes, I have done the quality.
Yeah, just the quality.
All right. What do you feel you're qualified? Emily Sievers, what do you feel you're qualified for the position for which you've declared your candidacy? I'm just reading off the statement here. As a councillor, I have worked alongside the incumbent president for the past 12 months and have insight into how the National Council operates. I have a track record of integrity and honesty, and I make a point of being approachable. I'm always keen to listen to my team, whether it be for brainstorming or complaints, and I act to remedy their concerns. That said, I have a low tolerance for bullshit and will cut to the crux of an argument rather than waste everyone's time on problems that only serve to shit stir. I don't consider myself a politician or a boss. I see myself as a regular pleb trying to make the country a better place. I stand for transparency and keeping the bastards honest. Why are you seeking the position for which you have declared your candidacy? Normally I'd not take the bold move of nominating for president, but as our illustrious leader has decided to not recontest the position, I decided to put my money where my mouth is and go for it. I've got exciting plans for the party that will get the pirates more in the public eye over the next 12 months. What experience contribution have you made so far to the pirate movement, and what will you do to advance or better the party and movement? I was elected to the position of councillor at last year's Congress, and in the past year I've been fairly active in my hometown of Brisbane, running meetings and generally getting my merry band of local pirates out and about. We faced a few obstacles last year getting ourselves off the ground, but it speaks of the quality of Brisbane's pirates, so we've built a strong, dedicated team in regular contact. In the event of being elected president, I intend to carry on the good work at home and encourage pirates nationally to put their best feet forward and get things done. I'd be delighted to support members wishing to stand in upcoming elections. I also would like to see the party more united on issues and policies where we currently have some disagreement on, and intend to bring some coherence to the party through healthy discussion and action. Do you agree with the Pirate Party platform and its ideals? What other political movements or parties have you been part of? I'm fundamentally on board with the Pirate Party's mission and constitution. I stand by my ideals, and while I'm expertly diplomatic with people who disagree with me, I don't back down or compromise on ideals when I'm tasked with representing them. I have not been a member of any other political parties. However, back in my undergraduate days, I had first forays into politics as a comradely helper to friends involved with the Labor Party at the University of Queensland. Additional documentation linked to Facebook. And that's it from Emily. Okay, so I'll open that up for questions for candidates. So anyone got any questions, comments online?
For the position of president.
This is just for president. What's on with the flags like? Okay, there's a question on the forum. Go, Mark.
A question for Emily. Can you outline further on exciting plans?
Emily S. just replied, events that attract non-priority interest. She's going to, might say more. She also replied, Alex and Miles are already aware of inquiries we've made into Brisbane possibilities for events.
Question from Peter, question for Emily. What are your thoughts on factionalism, moderates, conservatives, etc.? Peter, did you want to clarify that?
With online Congress, gets a bit weird. I'm just sitting here silently.
Do you want to read it out more?
Yeah, so the clarified question is, what is your stance on factionalism? Do you think factions play a role in this party or not? And the same to Luke. Might as well.
Good idea. Fletcher asked it of you.
Fletcher, sure. Thanks, Fletcher, for the question. Actually, I was asked exactly that question in my sort of thread on the forums, and the answer that I gave, which I still stand by, is that factionalism, in my view, is actually very important, and the ability for a party to maintain integrity and continue and grow with factionalism inside the party is actually a sign of maturity and a sign of health of debate within the party. Often many people think that that quiet is good. I think it's actually quite the opposite in a democratic process. The more we have debate and discussion, the more we have challenge to ways of thinking, the better the outcome. Harmony through not challenging, harmony through not stepping up, harmony through not debating, in my view, is the very worst outcome for a political organisation. So I think that we need to both embrace the concept of factionalism, even though I don't think it's really strong right now in the party at all, although we do have people that lean different sides. But we need to grow in our maturity and ability to cater for it and recognise that it's not the end of the world just because the view of somebody quite different gets acceptance over our own view, because we need to recognise always it's going to be swings and roundabouts. It's not always going to go one way, it's not always going to go the other.
So can I ask a follow-up on that?
Yep.
So we can and do have a wide variety of opinions on things, that at least branching off where people do have the same core beliefs. Factionalism, to my mind, speaks more about the willingness to apply a label and have some tribalistic tendencies that go along with that.
I would agree with that, yep.
Is it necessary to label and form tribes?
It's not necessary, but it's a sign of maturity when you do that, because once you create a collective group that operates as a group, the group outperforms what an individual is capable of, and I think we need to recognise as an organisation an ability to support that. I don't think that we need to subscribe to a sort of monotheistic equivalent of culture of the Pirate Party. I think it is many, it's varied, and I think we need to be accepting of that. And it's, again, a sign of our maturity that we can handle that there is different subgroups that operate as groups, not individuals sort of loosely banded together.
So extrapolating from that, though, wouldn't a better form of factionalism be where each faction is formed up of an individual?
I don't think it's up to the executive to pick how the members of the party independently interoperate. And if some of them wish to independently interoperate in a sort of more structured manner, I think that's up to them. I don't think the executive or the party's got that much to do with it. And if they want to stick a label on it, that's up to them. They're not asking endorsement. They're not asking approval.
Okay.
A few online comments. Emily's answered the question. No, I don't have a firm stance in the sense that I don't object to individuals leaning one way or another. I do, however, think if people want to be in a party, they need to support the line the party takes. If they don't, maybe they should wonder why they picked that party. Too many factions causes infighting, in my experience. From Peter, good answers from both candidates. From Alex, comment, I think Labor is broken.
I think we can say that about every other political party.
Emily says Labor has no direction and a wet blanket in charge.
That's a bit cruel on wet blankets.
Labor is UK. They're doing all right.
I think we meant Shorten. He's a bit of a wet blanket. Okay, is there any more questions for the presidential candidates? Oh, my phone's decided to do a voice search the exact minute I said that. I assume it's no. All right, well, both candidates have also nominated for Deputy President, and I assume it's all been covered by the presidential discussion, so we can move on to Secretary now.
Are you still nominated for Deputy Secretary, Simon?
Deputy President.
Deputy President.
Oh yeah, I'm nominated.
Yeah.
All right.
Get up there, boy.
Fine. I can just do it here. I can just been sitting here the whole time and talking. All right.
I think that's actually an abuse of power because
All right,
signing
fine.
there while you're giving the speech implies an assumption that you're under the authority of that position you currently occupy, which is not accurate.
Okay.
It's the incumbent.
All right, well, I'm running for Deputy President, and basically I'm happy to step aside and allow both the presidential candidates to have it, and I'll take the Deputy Treasurer position. I've been the President of the Pirate Party for the last couple of years, and I've done a lot of work, and I'm sort of tired from doing all that and need a bit of a break. So rather than sort of go crazy and burn out, as has happened to previous presidents, I've decided I'll need to step back for a year and I'll work out what I'll do after that, and depends on how we're going and stuff like that. I'll just keep working for the party as I do, helping with press releases, working on sort of political direction, helping with the treasury, collecting the mail, and I'll just keep doing what I do. And yeah, thanks for the time.
Treasury looks forward to working with candidate 3.
Any questions for Simon?
Yep.
Do you feel that you're better qualified to be the Deputy President or the Deputy Treasurer?
The question is whether Simon feels he's better qualified to be the Deputy President or the Deputy Treasurer.
I'd probably be better qualified to be Deputy President. I'm quite happy to do Deputy Treasurer role, and I'd sort of like the idea of having a lot less commitment that the Deputy Treasurer role would take unless we happen to get smashed by some crazy audit or something like that, in which case I just have to do the work. But yeah.
So follow-up question. Is it more about lifestyle balance for you or giving a fair go for broadening out the talent, which role, whether you pursue one role over the other?
I think at the moment it's probably a bit of both, where I think that just in terms of responsibilities and energy levels I have at the moment, it would serve the party better for me to be Deputy Treasurer than President, and at the same time it would be good to have some more other people take on the responsibilities and get that sort of experience, because even as someone is Deputy President in the party as at the size we are now, should we go to a bigger size, it would be really useful to have that person be able to like run a state branch or do something else. So just generally expanding our leadership talent pool is really good. Any questions on the line? All right, I'll leave it there.
Branding is important.
All right. Thank you. All right. Now we'll move on to secretary. I believe Simon Niesler is first.
Can I get Tom to go first?
Sure. Thank you. Tom first.
Hello everyone, my name's Tom Randall. For the last year I've been the Deputy Secretary of the party, and I've really enjoyed being in that position, and I want to start by thanking Fletcher for his help in running the Secretariat over the last year. We've made a lot of progress, I think, in the Secretariat and the responsibilities we have within the party. I think this year's team has been a stable hand, and being in the Deputy Secretary position allowed me to do some things that I wanted to do before stepping up into something like the Secretary position. So a little about me. My professional and life experience has covered theatre and event production, branding and marketing, project management, as well as being a programmer for quite a while. The themes that I bring to the National Council have most of the time been about our internal functioning, what the systems and the processes we have in place to help our members. This year I'm adding 2 more themes to what I want to work on, and the total of the themes include communication, community participation, how we organise internally, and how we campaign. I intend to continue making improvements to our membership communication systems, developing ways that members participate between congresses, and making the internal functioning of our party and our teams as visible as possible to the members. I think we're just about internally, as far as our systems go now, ready for reaching what I've always called a critical mass. The pirate movements around the world have always gotten to a point where they've essentially overnight had to deal with 5,000, 10,000 members joining at once. And we need to be ready and trying to reach that point at all times, because that's what we're all here for. That's the vision that we all see the party is capable of reaching. One of the other most important roles I've tried to provide while being on the National Council is to support new members when they join, making sure there is a point of contact, trying to facilitate people when they want to change something in the party, having somebody that they can talk to about how to put something in front of the National Council to get it resolved and to see their efforts having an impact on the party. Over the last year, I've been significantly more productive than my first year on the National Council. This year I've driven quite a few projects that we haven't advertised much, but essentially they're things that I've wanted to get in place for a while, and I've gotten that done. The first one I'll say is we relaunched our website at the beginning of this year, which included just a new theme, some information architecture and content. We did a social media branding refresh, which just updated our images and our profile a little bit across most of our social media channels. We've implemented a major change to our mailing lists. That means that new members now are added to the mailing lists we use for general communications in a way that hasn't happened previously, which has been a major downfall in this party, and it took a long time, an unacceptable amount of time to resolve that. But we can now communicate a lot better with our members just via email. And most importantly, I took over the development of our membership database project after it had stalled, and it is now in production, and we have members using it, and it will be rolled out to the entire membership base over the next month or so. And that will have finally put our party on a footing, I think, where we'll have a much better recurrent income, and it has created a platform that I envisage will be able to be expanded, so other people that are programmers or project managers or have interests in how the party should be organising can use this platform to build new features that help us collaborate, that create the visibility that our party needs. So those are my main accomplishments pretty much in the last year. Besides that, previously I was the lead Tasmanian Senate candidate at the 2013 federal election. I've been the campaigns officer in the party for a little while. I've been the Tasmanian state coordinator, and I've obviously helped out over the years with our social media accounts and producing flyers and graphic design material, the website stuff obviously. I agree with our platform. As I looked around when I decided to become politically active in about 2012, I looked around at the other political parties and there just wasn't anything, and then I remembered in the back of my head having a conversation with somebody from the Pirate Party on Twitter once, and when I looked up the website I decided this is the party for me. So that's my nomination for this year. I look forward to working with the new National Council, and I thank the current outgoing National Council for their efforts over the last year. Thanks.
Simon.
Hello everyone, my name is Simon Neeslaw. First of all, I'd just like to thank the traditional owners of this land, elders past and present. Second, I'd like to thank the outgoing National Council, and I just want to start with why I'm running for this position. I feel like I'm getting a lot of sentiment coming from Luke about the direction of the party. I feel like for the last year, the current National Council sees it as things, going quiet, taking a break, and I feel like we should be going for growth. And obviously everyone has a lot of personal commitments, myself included. I have a lot of my own personal things on, but still it's just about trying to bring in new faces, new blood, spread the load, grow, moving forward for growing the party basically. I don't have any particular complaints with how things are going. I just think that it could be more. As a regular member, I don't feel particularly engaged with the party. And I like to help. I just want to pitch in and help change that, as there's not many volunteers put their hand up for National Council. So I'm saying I'm willing to chip in, do whatever I can. I don't want to be the secretary. Ideally I would want deputy secretary. Tom's got a lot of experience. Quite happy with everyone else who's nominating for the position, and yeah, that's basically it. Any questions?
A couple of online comments. from Fletcher. Thomas is a great asset to the party and I completely support his move to secretary. The position requires a strong working knowledge of the party, our processes and resources. It's my view that Thomas is the best person on the docket to meet these requirements and the challenges of the position as a whole. From John, the Greens had consensus decision making and that has only recently broken down. While you could say that factionalism, this is on the old issue, factionalism is a sign of maturity, we have the potential for our distributed decision-making process to be something new and hopefully sustainable and perhaps something that gives us credibility. But Luke's thoughts are worth considering. Then from Alex, comment, amusing member DB, it works. Daniel, comment, what Fletcher said, and additional to Alex, member DB updated my details and renewed my membership. Shiny, very happy to see. Great work, Thomas.
Thank you, Daniel.
Stuart seconds Daniel J. From Peter, comment, Rundle deserves praise for effectively finishing the member DB project when it was otherwise left hanging abruptly before he took it up. We all knew it was a hard slog. I'll be happy to buy him a beer or rum or two. From Fletcher, comment, if Rundle wants secretary and Simon wants deputy, we can sort that out right now.
It's up to Simon. I think elections are good though. So.
Yeah, look, the position was open when I put it in, so I'm not sure how the exact processes work. I'm quite happy to just do secretary if no one else wants secretary. That's perfectly fine with me. I echo
Secretary or deputy?
Deputy secretary. Sorry, I'm happy for deputy secretary. I quite agree with Fletcher's comments that Rundle being the best candidate for the job, clearly is. I'm not trying to make waves or take that away, and I don't have a problem with the job that he's been doing so far.
Yeah. If you want to withdraw from the secretary nomination, you can. You just have to say it.
Yeah,
Don't listen to your competition. Challenge.
Seems pretty trustworthy. So
We need to borrow those hats.
yeah, I withdraw from the secretary and just stay with deputy secretary in that case.
Yep.
Quite happy with that.
Another comment from Alex. Applause to Simon G for standing up.
Yep.
I think it sounds like it's a very difficult thing, a very difficult job to be a National Council member. It's a lot of responsibility in taking ownership of that in doing it. I'm not going to be the secretary. I'll be deputy, which is good. I'm not ready for that. If it's not required, I'd rather someone else step up in my place if that's possible, which is what's happened. And I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
Question from Fletcher. Does Thomas accept the position of secretary? Does Simon accept the position of deputy secretary?
I accept that.
Yeah, I will accept the position of secretary.
So that's yes to both.
And I just want to also mention that I do have a small gaming group that I started that sort of blew up and got really big, out of control. It's around 2,000 members. So I can see how difficult it is to run a large-ish organisation. It's something that I don't wish upon anyone who doesn't want to do it. It's a GTA Online. It's actually about people. It's quite the opposite of GTA Online, really. We call it the cartel, where basically we're working together to control the economy within the game, rather than fighting each other, which is quite the opposite of what all the other players do. So we
provide protection services.
we protect one another.
You'll do well in the secretary position, in the deputy secretary position.
It's fully, and we're fully open to people of different backgrounds too, where like people who may have some disabilities, where they might not be as quick reaction to fight other people. They might get more enjoyment out of a game to be able to play it without people annoying them, and don't take any particular political stance. Like, you can talk about it, but we're not going to tolerate people fighting or gender things or race, religion, anything like that. It's pretty diverse kind of thing. It wasn't the original intention, but just so happened that because it's about working together, it sort of attracted that kind of crowd. And I quite like how it took off organically. So yeah, I'm quite proud to be part of that.
Okay, a couple more online comments. Peter seconds Alex J on applause for our new Deputy Secretary. From Daniel J, comment, seconding again from Alex. And having been DepSec, then Sec for a couple of years, I'll say that spending time as DepSec before Sec is a great path to go, and thanks for stepping up. From Fletcher, Mark G, do you accept the position of Treasurer? Yes, I accept the position of Treasurer. From Alex J, comment and congrats to our new Secretariat.
And for membership database too.
So I think it's probably just worth mentioning that the only contested positions at this point are who's going to be president and who's going to be deputy. Like, that's it. The rest of it, there's enough slots for everyone who's nominated.
Okay.
So Emily, we can settle up with thumb wrestle if she wants.
Well, yeah. So we still need to move on to the other.
Yep. Next up, or do the uncontested people need to say anything?
I think they should be given the opportunity.
Mark, as Treasurer.
Do you want to say anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So Deputy Treasurer.
Deputy Treasurer is me, which I've already spoken, so that's fine. Registered Officer Alex Jago, do you want to say anything?
Anything about what you'd like to do in the position? Maybe not just the responsibilities of the title, but also anything else you want to do in the party over the coming year? I'll have no sniping there.
What kind of man hours would we have invested in as volunteer basis?
What sort of what?
What kind of man hours?
Man hours. Depends on the role a lot. I probably would have been doing around 25 hours a week as president, roughly, give or take.
Yeah, you're really slow at
Possibly. Yeah, it depends. Like, other roles are a lot less kind of involved. Secretary would be quite a lot of work around, especially minutes and maintaining like the membership register and stuff like that. Treasury is a bit of a job, and just dealing with like running the accounts and keeping a track of all the money. Council is pretty much just have to turn up. So it's like 2 hours a fortnight for the meetings plus whatever they do. Outside of that, like, some people take on other tasks. Like this year, Emily has put a lot of effort into getting Brisbane stuff going in Brisbane. Andrew's done a fair bit of work on like just sort of online democracy and stuff like that. And so, you know, sort of people just have projects that they work on. So it sort of varies depending on what they do and how involved they are and what they want to do. But yeah.
I've got a response from Alex to his question. It's a defined role. Apart from RO duties, I'll be thinking of myself as councillor number 3.
That's a good way to think of it. Yeah, as president a long time ago, I agree with Frew. It's like, it is probably at least 20 hours a week. Registered officer. I did almost nothing other than turn up to the meetings and stuff. So it was probably an average of 2 hours a week.
Thomas, how many hours did you put in this year, building the member system and everything else?
I don't know, but as a member, I volunteer my time willingly.
Yeah, I guess that's also something to focus on, that it's not because he was on the National Council that he did that stuff. Like, you shouldn't have to be on the National Council to volunteer and actually get stuff done for the party.
Yeah, and that is a good point, and part of the reason that I run on the National Council is to make sure that all the members have access to being able to make the changes in the party that they want to make. So the primary role of the National Council over the next year, or one of the primary roles of the National Council over the next year, is coming up with better ways to facilitate the members doing the things that they see the party needs to do.
All right. councillors, any councillors want to speak? Anyone?
So that's John August or Miles Whitaker.
Yep, do you want to say anything, Miles? John?
Got a comment from Emily. Shout out to Brisbane locals for their dedication in the last few months.
Do you accept the councillor position, Miles?
Yep.
Miles accepts. And I think we have...
And we're just waiting to see if John August would like us to read anything out, even though he's won the position. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If he accepts.
I think he must have before.
Yep, that just says he's already accepted.
Yep. Okay, cool. And other than that, we've got Policy Development Officer. Do you want to say anything, Jesse?
Not that fast, but if anyone wants me to say anything, I will.
Yes, please.
All right. G'day. I'm Jesse Hermans. I have been your stand-in PDO for the past roughly 8 months. I currently am involved with the Policy Development Committee because I enjoy public policy. It's sort of like my hobby. I like economics. I would probably be doing this role, my involvement in the Policy Development Committee is irrespective of whether or not I take on this responsibility, but I'm happy to continue the role. I tend to be a very sort of facilitative listener in terms of, I prefer people to sort of drive the discussion, although if no one is going to put forward stuff, I do also have some particular interests in tax policy, and the right to work and a few other things that I would be interested in putting forward to the party and developing as policy. So, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes?
Yep. Yeah, go for it.
Let's see if that microphone is on. I think it is.
Check, does it work? Anybody? Don't know how to tell.
Yep.
Jesse, I'm aware that you're a member of several other outside organisations. I'm just wondering if you feel there's any either conflicts of interest or allegiance in relation to your connection with those versus Pirate Party?
Right. My other involvement in outside organisations is generally non-partisan. I just involve myself in these causes for the sake of the causes. I'm willing to put forward those views to the party as well, to developing this policy, but I don't think there's an inherent conflict with the party itself, because generally these movements, I'm for these movements in terms of, at the moment I'm a member of Prosper Australia on the executive, so they're a tax reform organisation, a founder of the Right to Work Coalition. I'm also going to be working with the Australian Unemployment Workers Union on some other stuff with them in about a few months' time. My involvement with these organisations is generally to help them pursue their cause in a broadly non-partisan sense. So I'm not that fussed whether or not the Pirate Party adopts their positions or someone else adopts their positions. But I would like to also make my case towards the Pirate Party on those particular sort of movements and what they stand for. Yes. Microphone, Luke.
I'll stand here.
Yep. All right. Nice.
Hello, I'm Luke Jesse. Good to meet you. I haven't met you before.
Yeah, I'm relatively new. I only joined the party less than, I think, 12 months ago. So yeah, I've been involved since then on the Policy Development Committee forums.
Yep.
quite an impressive set of interests, which actually is great. Why the Pirate Party? What is it that most resonates about the Pirate Party to you?
I'm glad you asked. One of the things that struck me when, because my first federal election was actually 2016. I'm only 21, so I haven't really been voting for that long. But I was looking for someone to vote for, or a party to vote for, and it sort of struck me when I went to the Pirate Party's website that their policy is very well developed out in sort of making a case for it, and then citations and sort of references, and it's very sort of evidence-based, and I think it's well written. So that sort of struck out to me, and I thought, oh, I've never seen this before. This is pretty good. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe I could also make some contributions as well, because it's a really well-developed platform, I thought. And I thought this is the sort of party I'd like to be a part of, that makes good policy and has a very good democratic process. That was another thing that also stood out to me, is the Pirate Party, having been established for quite a few years, also has a very good sort of democratic engagement process as well, with also the community forums, where discussion can also take place between members with quite ease. So yeah, I guess those are the main things that sort of attracted me to the Pirate Party, as well as also having a sort of a strong anti-rentier sort of rent-seeking culture as well in its policy platform. That really sort of appealed to me as well. Miles, you have a question?
This is going to be a little bit of an extended one, so I apologise in advance. Hi Jesse, thanks again for nominating. It's really great seeing new faces come forward, particularly ones who are so gung-ho right off the bat. I'm looking forward to some great stuff over the years. So as I said, slightly preachy here, sorry. For policy development, it's the way I see it is that's more or less the core of our work as a party so far. We've done a huge lot of work over there, largely thanks to Andrew D over the years, a little shout out. And obviously others have contributed as well. So it's a very, very important part of the work as a party. Really look forward to some of the things you can do there. Now, that said, you mentioned in your nomination you do think non-partisanship is important. Given that you are now directly affiliating with a party, and obviously given the importance of strong evidence-based policy, would you be willing to step forward publicly and publicly speak for Pirate Party views and policies?
Yes, I would, because generally I agree with the Pirate Party policy platform in pretty much all its respects, so I would be happy to speak for
What about when you don't?
I'd still be willing to put forward the party's position based on the party's arguments. I mean, they might not be my personal views, but in the cases where that conflict would occur, I would still have to put forward the party line, and I'd be okay with that. Considering that these would be views, no doubt, that would be discussed and debated rigorously within the party. So there would have to be definitely some good case for it, arguments made for it that could be presented on that basis, and I'd be happy to put those forward as well, even if they're not necessarily arguments that I'd agree with.
A couple of online comments from Alex. Can we run the vote for DRC casual vacancy simultaneously? And a second one from Alex. Jesse might change his mind on citations when he learns how many of those links have rotted. I haven't looked at them.
Should probably archive them then, or archive the sources. I think that would be useful.
It's the internet. You can usually find.
Yeah. You can usually dig something up. I mean, and if you can't necessarily find a particular document, you can usually reference the document.
And I'll just comment, I'm a member of Prosper as well, and so is Bill. So that's 3 on the Policy Development Committee who are members of that NGO.
Ooh, the faction. That's always going to happen.
Yeah, the internal Georges faction of the Pirate Party. It stands out with the land value tax policy.
And Fletcher's response to one of those questions was that no, we can't run the casual vacancy.
So is the casual vacancy be created because Miles was on the DRC before? Or?
I'm standing in for Mozart's position, the rest of his.
Yep. So because you're now a councillor, that creates a vacancy. Is that the point? Yeah.
Hi. So you mentioned something about tax reform.
Yes.
Right? So I'm just trying to kind of understand what your stance might be, because they had a great vision. They had the e-tax that was for individuals, and then they moved to MyGov with the click-through processing for,
tax.
I believe, 80% of Australia was covered by the click-through kind of automated tax lodgement.
Right.
And that seems to have kind of gotten lost in the coverage. Now, I'm wondering what the stance is on adoption, propping it up, and whatever.
Is this in terms of like administration of, say, income tax, or?
Yeah.
Like, what is it?
Yes. Can I jump in on your question?
Yeah.
Piggyback your question.
Well, either way, for the PDC, you can come up to the mic. Luke. But for the PDC, if we want to look at tax again, it's up for the PDC to set their agenda to review Australia's
There's
tax
quite a few
system.
accountants around, so I know some accountants, so let's get it going.
So, can I ask? My piggyback question on the tax question is: do you see the usability and user experience of the tax system as actually important, or just the theoretical financial dimensions of tax? There's a tricky question for you.
That's a good point. I think that, well, generally speaking, yes, the sort of personal interaction with the tax system in the administrative process should be streamlined, and it should be, I guess, more accessible and easier to use. Although, like a good place to start would probably be, like one of the policies I found quite good for the Pirate Party is the merger of the welfare and the tax transfer systems into a single, more streamlined system. Because if you think about it, there's a weird duplication where we, on the one hand, tax people if they work, but then on the other hand, we have a separate department that has to quarantine their income based on their welfare. That just seems like a weird doubling of functions, where if the state's going to be redistributing income to people, it would make sense to just do that through a single department where they can measure that income and then address that accordingly. As for the actual practical, I guess, running of, say, income tax through like MyGov websites, I mean, I personally have found it pretty easy to use. I mean, I'm not sure for other people. I don't know exactly how that could be improved, but I'd be interested in discussing possible improvements to administration of income tax. Although personally, I don't particularly believe in income tax. I generally believe in the taxation of monopoly property rights as a first and foremost, although I'm happy to keep some form of income tax for pragmatic sakes. If there are other people in the party that want that, I'm content to keep that as a policy.
So also just to jump in on Luke's question and take that a bit further, what are your thoughts then on improving user experience to the detriment of privacy? Because I think that's one of the big changes between eTax and MyTax, that eTax you actually only submitted a fraction of the information it actually grabbed from you. If you left notes on what a deduction was for, that didn't go to the tax department. Now with MyTax, it's all online, so everything you submit is basically part of it.
Right. Well, generally speaking, one of the policy planks of Pirate Party is privacy is paramount. Although I guess the question I have to also put back to that is, in that previous system, because I'm not too familiar with this particular distinction, because I mean I haven't really been filling out tax return forms that long. I only just got like a job 2 years ago. I deliver pizzas and I also tutor high school students. So when they had that previous system, was there any sort of was that a problem for the tax office to not have the information? Like, what? I mean, obviously, my belief generally is that a government department should only have the minimal amount of information they need to run or function practically. I mean, if any sort of information that they get beyond that, in my view, is overreach.
Yeah,
generally speaking.
If I'm not mistaken, the only stuff that was submitted through eTax was literally like the fields that would be on the paper forms.
Right.
MyTax, because there is no desktop client, anything you type into it is being stored by them somehow.
I see. Well, then I guess that would be something that should be looked at, because that does sound like unnecessary collection of data.
Well, even with the paper returns, most people go to an accountant and they lodge it electronically through the tax office, and they get all that data from that anyway. Some information the tax office already has, where the accountants can actually pull that information from the tax office database, like interest and dividends and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's sort of known what sort of data that they've got there, and obviously they do a lot of checks for checking for fraud and that sort of thing. So it's not really much difference with e-tax from doing it the other way. I suppose the option is still there to do a paper return. I'm not sure if the tax office is data entering that into a system or not, or I have no idea, but that's just how it's set up at the moment.
All right, are there any final questions for
Yes,
Jesse about running for the PDC position?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
I was just going to respond to that. I mean, I think that's a good point, is maintaining some sort of optional paper system for people that may have those sort of concerns, I think is a valid point. Like, that was one of the things that I thought was stupid about when they rolled out the mandatory sort of digital census. Like, I was actually working on the ground distributing the paper forms, and there, that was a big debacle. But it just sort of seemed like, if people had just had the option of requesting, well, they just sort of did, but I guess it just wasn't handled very well in some ways. But having some sort of paper alternative for those sort of concerns, I think, is useful as a sort of not quite an opt-out, but I guess just if there's any sort of privacy concerns there. But yeah, as a general principle, generally speaking, a government department should be running off the minimal amount of information it needs to practically function. So if there's a problem there, we should be looking at it.
A comment from Jed B. MyGov could be massively improved by removing as much JavaScript as possible. From John A. The tax office used to struggle with non-Windows annual tax assessment. However, with MyTax, that seems to work well in my experience. From Jed, delivering pizza, my sympathies. From me, is that Henry George in the background of your...
Yeah, it is. That photo was taken at Prospera for an event for the Proportional Representation Society. So I just cropped the photo because I was tired. It was late at night and I needed to submit a photo. So I was just looking through photos and I'll just use this.
Yeah, I did the same.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was a nice touch. It's sort of, I guess, it's sort of. I'm fairly transparent about my beliefs and what I stand for. So I thought that was a reasonable photo to capture like that.
I have a couple of questions. Firstly, could you tell us a bit more about these other organisations? Do they have similar sort of values to the Pirate Party? Is there a bit of synergy there, or what are they all about, basically?
Yeah. All right. So yeah, definitely. That's one of the reasons why I joined the Pirate Party. So Prosper Australia advocates for taxation of economic rents, which is generally what the Pirate Party has in their platform. So taxation of land values. I'd also like to develop a resource rents collection policy, so that'd be taxation of, I guess, it's not as opposed to, similar to royalties, but using resource rent taxes, which are generally more efficient. At the moment, there are loopholes in the system, as I understand it, where they're using the market value rather than the book value for depreciation, which is a big problem for the current PRRT, the Petroleum Resource Rents Tax. Things like that, so electromagnetic spectrum. Ideally, we've got that recent policy, the transport policy, where we abolish taxi medallions or taxi licenses. You want to try and replace those with a non-fixed quantity, so the license holders or whoever holds a permit can't extract a rent from that, because that's a big issue. That's why we had a huge amount of backlash when we started. The Victorian government tried. They're rolling out the regulation of Uber and the abolition of taxi medallions, and there was a big backlash because people had sort of been raised and fed on the notion that they were entitled to some sort of rent from these licenses the government had initially sold off and then said we're not going to sell anymore, which I think is just a stupid way to set up a system. But generally speaking, yeah, so that's definitely in line with Pirate Party views, and I would like to develop that further in line with some of the work and research that they do there, so we can expand our policy base and increase the breadth and depth of it. The other organisations I'm a member of, as a founder, I'm a member of the Right to Work Coalition. So we stand for a return to full employment policy that we used to have in the post-war period between 1945 and the mid-70s. So that's a use of fiscal policy to maintain full employment and to end labour underutilisation. So that's sort of in line also with the Australian Unemployment Workers Union. That also involves, I guess, modern monetary theory, which I'd also be willing to discuss, although these are very, I guess, complex topics. that I can't just present to you today.
I admit that it's a bit over my head to whether to know to agree or disagree. You'd probably get on well with my father, who's an accountant. He gets into all this sort of thing. My second question is, what's your personal opinion on Pirate Party's universal basic income policy? It's a very big part of the platform. It's referenced a lot, and just what your thoughts are on that.
That's a very good question. Now, my general view is I'm okay for a BI policy to exist. I'm fine with that. Although, personally, I believe you also need to have a complementary employment guarantee with that as well, because the losses, the problems that people face in terms of long-term unemployment and also just unemployment in general go beyond income loss. So I think we're really blindsiding ourselves if we think the problem is just an income problem when there's also a problem beyond income loss. So that would be one aspect to it. Although generally I also am a big supporter of universal basic pensions and abolishing compulsory super. So yeah, I do support the UBI policy with some caveats as a general thing, and I would like to, I guess, make it better in some ways than what it currently is by adding some complementary policies to it.
Thank you. I'll look forward to some development in these areas.
Thank you for the questions.
I have one more.
No, go ahead.
Just a quick one. Look, I think you're a great candidate, and I think you'd be quite interesting. So that's good. But the question is a very important one for the Pirate Party, and that is beer, wine, or rum.
Rum, definitely rum.
Right.
Seriously, I'm a spirits man. I mean, I don't usually buy alcohol very often, but I do like my spirits.
All right, that's the end of.
Thank you.
That's the end of the candidacy section. I propose that we have a 15-minute break before returning to continue our strategy discussion from yesterday. All those in favour, raise your green cards. Against, raise your red. Abstentions online. Assume it's all good. People going risky. They can't really stop us. Should be good.
Twisty said nay. Everyone else said aye.
All right.
Guessing
that's
passes. Yeah.
You get Twisty's IP address, so just switch to Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't closed the vote, but no one's voted. There's only Twisty's voted no.